Thank you. Mr. Taylor, back in October, we had Director Comey from the FBI here, and he was asked if he could tell us with a high degree of certainty that he, through the vetting process, could assure us that ISIL would not be able to move some of their terrorist members into our country through these refugee movements. And he basically said no, that the problem was we didn't know what we don't know. And here we are 4 months later, and to my knowledge, we're still in that same situation. So why are you insisting that we continue to visit this topic of these 10,000 refugees?
Well, sir, I believe there are two questions. I'll ask Director Rodriguez to answer the question on the refugee screening, which is more in his line. But I believe what Director Comey was referring to was the data that he had available within the FBI and within the intelligence community about this particular population. We know a lot more today about this population than we did when he testified back in October, and we continue to learn every day. That's our system. I wouldn't want to go specifically into how that knowledge base grows, but it grows every day. It has grown since 9/11. I welcome the opportunity to, in a closed session or another session, to speak to that capacity.
Well, it grows because we had a lot of room for improvement. The problem is we still can't say with a high degree of certainty that they won't be able to sneak ISIL members in through those groups. And I got to tell you, Mr. Rodriguez, I've been here, this is my 14th year to be honored to serve in Congress. I haven't heard an opening statement from a witness I disagreed with more than yours. I don't know why in the world you think that we should have a sense of urgency to accept these refugees, moral or otherwise. The fact is the refugees who have left Syria are no longer in danger. Our moral obligation is to help make sure they have a place to stay, health care, food, until we can get them safely back into their country. We have millions of them in Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey. I can understand why you think we would want to be good Americans, like we always are, very generous Americans, and help them in those areas, but why should we move them into our country? I can't understand why you think that's necessary. You know, one of the things that came up in the hearing when Director Comey was here was we had a group of refugees that had came up through South America, through Mexico, and came to our southern border and turned themselves in, wanted asylum. Now, those people weren't in danger. They were looking for economic opportunity. And that's what I think is happening with a lot of these people. And it's happening in Western Europe as well. These people are not, once they're out of Syria, they're not looking for safety anymore. It's all about economic security. I had the ambassador from Romania in my office this morning, along with a member of Parliament, and I asked them as they were talking about the migration issues have really upset Western Europe and Eastern Europe. And I asked him, I said, well, y'all had a problem with refugees in Romania? He started laughing. He said, we're way too poor. The only refugees that have come to Romania were there by accident. And once they realized they were in Romania, they left and went to Germany or someplace with economic opportunities. So tell me why we're focused on this instead of removing Bashar al-Assad from power so these people can go back home. Why are we not working on helping the refugees stay in their neighborhood, in encampments or in cities, and bringing them to our country where we know ISIL intends to use them to kill us?
So I think an important starting point for this discussion is the fact that since September 11th, we have admitted 785,000 refugees. 128,000 of those have come from Iraq. A number of them have come from other places where there is, in fact, an active terrorist threat, Somalia, other parts of North Africa. Not a single one of them has actually ever engaged in an active attack on the homeland. There have been plots that have been disrupted by U.S. law enforcement.
And what percentage of that number has happened in the last few months since Paris and since we've had the problem in the attempted attack in Berlin or the attack in San Bernardino? You're conflating this into a completely different picture. The world has changed dramatically over the last several months, and you know that. We now have to be focused on where ISIL is and the efforts they're using to get people in this country now. I agree. We're a country of immigrants. We've had a great, rich history with immigrants. But we have a new dynamic right now, and that is not relevant. What you're describing is not relevant to this dynamic.
I guess, Congressman, where you and I do actually disagree, and I appreciate your highlighting the disagreement, is I do not believe that refugee admission is purely a moral and humanitarian undertaking. It is that. but it is much more. It has a critical strategic national security and foreign policy role. If we are not seen as offering opportunity to the very victims of ISIL and al-Nusra, then we will have given away a vital part of the battlefield.
Why do we owe them opportunity?
I'm sorry?
Why do we owe them opportunity?
Because right now those individuals are displaced. They may be safe over the short term. There are 400,000 children who are not going to school.
And we can provide them opportunity for safety in their neighborhood, in Turkey, in Jordan, in those areas. We don't have to have them in our country to make sure they stay safe, well-fed, and cared for.
And that is certainly one reason why the numbers that we are taking are relatively small compared to the overall number who are in refugee status. And it is something that we are doing alongside the other English-speaking countries that have made commitments to accept refugees, the other European countries that have made commitments. That's also critical. We need to work with our allies to deal with this problem together. We cannot place ourselves in a posture where we're saying it is their problem and not ours. That, in my mind, actually does have a national security implication if we do not look at it that way. But I understand that is a point on which you and I disagree, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.